Happening tonight, the clock ticks closer to a critical deadline, and Iraq isn't blinking yet.
A spray of gunfire on a city street leaves one man dead with his two assailants still on the loose.
And Dandy Nicola says if you like steamy sacks, Kenny, gee, he's awful.
Some colder weather tomorrow, snow for the weekend.
Marty Aarons, Liz Bishop, sports with John Graney, and meteorologist Neal Estano. Now, live, 11 minutes of uninterrupted news, sports, and the forecast. This is News Center 6, 11 at 11.
Good evening. It was like a scene from Dodge City on 1 Troy Street tonight with a shower of bullets and a murder victim. But first, the latest from Iraq, where the clock is ticking down towards a deadline. We get more from Regina Blakely.
Iraq has told the United Nations it's not backing down. In a 4-page document delivered to representatives of the United States, Britain, France, and Russia, Iraq's envoy to the UN claimed his country is not ready to give up the right to do what it wants to with its military hardware, including surface-to-air missiles.
Iraq does not recognize the no-fly zone because it was not a UN job. It was imposed by the 3 Western powers. And based on that, Iraq reserves all its right to move whatever it wants at the time it deems necessary.
U.S. Ambassador Edward Perkins refused to go into the details, saying any reply would come from Washington.
That all of us have decided to refer the answer to our capitals, which is what we decided to do in the original sense.
Although there were reports of movement of the missiles along the 32nd parallel, Washington refused to confirm any pullback, saying the situation was being closely monitored. Saddam may believe he has more room to provoke a confrontation now because it's transition time in Washington. But Mr. Bush has proven that could be a costly miscalculation, the president liking nothing more than to see Saddam Hussein blink one more time before he leaves office. Regina Blakely, CBS News, Washington.
Now, President-elect Bill Clinton says tonight the U.S. policy towards Iraq will not be different when he takes office. Clinton says there will not be a softening of the U.S. position.
A hail of bullets cuts down a man in the streets of Troy tonight. Our Ed O'Brien joins us live now from the scene with the details on the latest street shooting in the Capital District. Ed?
Those residents of this neighborhood tell me it's like an open-air drug supermarket around here, populated by dealers from the New York City area. Well, tonight, for 24-year-old Sean Robertson of Queens, something here turned deadly. It happened at about 7 tonight. The shooting starting near the intersection of 5th and Rensselaer. Police quickly sealed off the area and hustled eyewitnesses away. But Chief Bill Miller says police have not been given much to go on.
No, they have not. No, they have not. There was several shots fired, and that's all we know at this time.
Does it seem like there was more than one gun involved here?
Well, we know that there was definitely more than one gun involved.
Police later found one of those guns, a .45 caliber automatic, in a nearby alley. One neighborhood resident tells me he was on the phone with police complaining because he heard an argument outside of his apartment. He said before he could hang up the phone, he heard the shots fired. Just how many shots is unclear. Others who live here, though, say they heard at least 5.
All I heard was 5 shots from my house. I was cooking supper. And I knew they weren't firecrackers.
As I'm talking with the operator in the police station, they're telling us in all the cars somebody has got shot. Another 5 shots. Said when time I got out to look for him, he was gone. They had to follow him down there and they finished him down on North 1st Street there, on Rensselaer Street.
As far as we know, no arrests have yet been made. 2 men were spotted running from the scene earlier tonight. Again, this happened at about 7 o'clock. Police haven't picked up anybody as yet. Again, one man, though, Liz, is dead. That's a 24-year-old Sean Robertson from Queens.
So more than one gun involved. We're looking at a shootout here then.
Apparently, it could have been an ambush. Police aren't saying whether it was a drive-by shooting or whether it was a confrontation. We just don't know right now.
People in that neighborhood used to drugs. Are they used to gunshots?
They say there have been several killings here over the past 20 years. One guy said 5 people have died here in the course of that time. That's how long he's lived here.
All right, Ed, thanks very much. Ed O'Brien, live from Troy.
Liz, in Albany, detectives arrested 23-year-old Anthony Buchanan for allegedly shooting Ulysses Sturtevant in the leg. Now, that happened back on December 23rd. Buchanan of Orange Street in Albany faces various charges, including attempted murder.
A village trustee who's also a fire commissioner in Saugerties is in legal trouble tonight. Police have charged 36-year-old Joseph Doyle with grand larceny, forgery, and official misconduct. Police say Doyle used his position to take money, but officials won't say how much. Doyle is set to appear in court January 13th. Albany fire officials rushed to a blaze at 113 Dove Street tonight. Fire damage to the 2.5-story structure was confined to the first floor. No one was injured. 2 cats were rescued from the building.
A deal has been struck easing the burden for thousands of people who use Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield. State lawmakers hammered out the agreement that will pump $100 million into that insurer. Well, the result? Rate increases will drop from about 25% to just under 20%. Lawmakers are expected to officially approve that deal sometime next week.
Time now to update you on 2 stories that we first told you about at 6 o'clock. An honor roll student and Whitehall's high school president is in Glens Falls Hospital tonight. He's the victim of an apparent hit and run. As we reported exclusively at 6 o'clock, 19-year-old Howard Kelly suffered bruised ribs and a concussion after apparently being run down in front of his home this morning. Whitehall police ask anyone with information about that accident to give them a call.
Berkshire County officials are working to identify the body of a man discovered by a road crew today along Route 20 in Hancock. Now, they're awaiting autopsy results to determine the cause of death. The Berkshire County DA says the man is white and in his mid-20s.
A barrage of guns and rocket fire in Somalia tops tonight's world rap. U.S. troopers unleashed the gunfire to spread fear among Somalia's feuding clans and gunmen. Tank, helicopter, and rocket fire rained down on 2 clan camps where snipers have been taking pot shots at the troops. At least 7 Somalis were killed while 1 Marine was wounded by friendly fire.
Very strong winds and heavy rains have all but stopped efforts to rescue wildlife and clean up the spreading oil spill off Scotland's Shetland Islands. The forecast, I'm afraid, isn't any better for tomorrow.
At least 14 people have drowned in torrential rains that have flooded parts of Tijuana, Mexico. The victims were in hillside slums and isolated shantytown neighborhoods.
Ohio may be the next stop for the so-called suicide doctor, but the Buckeye State has pulled up the welcome mat. Dr. Jack Kevorkian says he might travel to Ohio to help a sick person take his own life. Ohio officials are warning him to please stay away.
The wait is virtually over for Elvis fans and stamp collectors alike. Tomorrow at noon, the Elvis stamp goes on sale at post offices around the country. The U.S. Postal Service has printed 500 million stamps of the king.
Well, if people are going to stand in line for the stamps, what will the weather be like? Neal's on the weather patio with more.
The day we've all been waiting for. That's right. We are going to be seeing more clouds tomorrow than we saw today. And out of those clouds, don't be too surprised to see some snowflakes, but nothing too significant. Now, overnight tonight, the clouds will thicken up, and by tomorrow morning, expect to see a little bit in the way of snow, flurry activity. That'll be about it. Maybe some more light snow midday tomorrow, and then glimpses of sunshine from the Albany area on north. However, lower Hudson Valley could be seeing a little bit of sleet by tomorrow morning as that cold front pushes on to the south. This is what I expect across the area. Just some light snow or flurries from the Capital District north and west, and a little bit more snow, dusting to a quarter of an inch with some sleet through the lower Hudson Valley. I'll have more in the forecast for you coming up in just a few more minutes. And we do have a storm heading in for the weekend. Be glad to tell you about that, too.
Oh, we'll be glad to hear. Thank you, Neal.
Well, big bucks and an old-timer returns. John Graney explains all that in First Sports. John?
Well, Liz, there can be no doubt that Cecil Fielder is the best RBI man in all of baseball. So it figured that he would be up with the leaders at the pay window when he got around to signing a new contract. Big Cess now trails only Barry Bonds among Major League players after signing a 5-year deal with the Tigers that will pay him $36 million over the next 5 years, a tidy $7.2 million per year. Of that money, he got a $10 million signing bonus, a long way from Japan, where Fielder was playing after being released by Toronto in the mid-'80s. Meanwhile, George Brett indicated he would be back for a 20th year with Kansas City next year, and may even play beyond that. Many thought Brett would not be back after he reached the 3,000 hit mark this past season. The top college hoop game of the night featured a pair of top 10 teams from the Big Ten Conference, and Michigan broke open a close game late in recording a 10-point victory at Purdue. Good road win for the Wolverines. Elsewhere on the college hoop scoreboard, Cincinnati is winning rather comfortably at Massachusetts in the second half, and Quebec in overtime beats Boston at the Boston Garden. And I got to tell you, Liz, you talk about improvement. Quebec now has more points this year than they tallied all last season.
Hey, that's impressive.
Not too shabby. January 7th.
All right. Thank you, John.
Okay, Liz.
Well, let's check on one front page story. Tomorrow, a newly appointed Rensselaer County Assistant District Attorney has quit. That under a cloud of controversy less than a week after he started the job. The Troy Record reports that George Collins resigned after it was learned that he'd been convicted of larceny, public lewdness, drunk driving, and driving with ability impaired.
Coming up later on News Center 6, Dan DiNicola sounds a sour note on a very popular performer, saying Kenny G lacks sax appeal.
But first, more on the major story tonight as we talk to Congressman Mike McNulty about the crisis brewing in Iraq.
Well, as we told you earlier, time is running out for Saddam Hussein on an ultimatum from the U.S. and its allies. Iraq has just about 24 hours to move its missiles away from the no-fly zone or face military action.
That's right. It doesn't seem to have fazed Saddam Hussein at all. Tonight, his foreign minister is saying Iraq will defend itself. Joining us now to talk about possible action is Congressman Mike McNulty, and he is at our Albany News Center. Thank you, Congressman, for taking time tonight.
Hi, Marty.
Hi, how are you? The deadline comes at 5:15 tomorrow, our time. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm not sure what's going to happen, and I don't have any inside information as to what President Bush might order, and if I did, I wouldn't say so right now. But I think after watching Saddam Hussein miscalculate as to the intentions of George Bush so many times over the past couple of years, it's really hard for me to believe he's going to do it again. And I think there might be some question on his part about this transition period that we're in and about uncertainty about U.S. foreign policy. I think he's going to learn very, very quickly that George Bush, as the President of the United States until noon on January the 20th, he's going to be fully engaged in all policy, particularly foreign policy up until that point. And I'm also very encouraged with the response from President-elect Clinton, which is basically saying in the vernacular, look, pal, if you think you're going to get a better deal from me, you're sadly mistaken.
Has Bill Clinton been backed into a corner at all by any of this?
No, I think he genuinely supports the position of President Bush. And I think he's trying to send the message, and has done so several times, that he intends to continue that policy.
The UN ambassador from Iraq has suggested that perhaps the U.S. send a congressional delegation to Baghdad to talk about this no-fly zone. Does that make any sense to you? Is there any reason to do that?
Not at this particular time. I'm fully confident in the ability of George Bush to deal with this situation in the same manner that he has done so magnificently since August of 1990. I don't think there's any need for that. And I was kind of amused by the comments from the ambassador of Iraq about what's legal and what's not legal. Officials of the government of Saddam Hussein have no right talking about legality and international law. They're international terrorists, have been violating international law left and right for years.
All right, Mike McNulty, Congressman, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thanks, Marty.
Well, a relatively mild January so far.
But you know the question, how long can it last? And Neal's got an answer.
Well, a cold front approaching even as I speak. Colder air moving in tomorrow with some snow for part of the weekend. Forecast is next.